Hey everyone, I'm Josef Fares from Your Daily Nerd, and first things first, as you can see, this is a little bit of a different setup than normal. I'm home at my parents' house for the holidays, so the setup for the next about month and a half or so is going to be a little bit different. So the first thing I thought we would go into, since I haven't made a video in a little bit, is I thought I would go ahead and cover the 2017 Game Awards. Now, the 2017 Game Awards were held on December 7th this year, and as always, they were hosted by the creator of the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley. The event itself was held over in the Microsoft Arena over in Los Angeles. And before I go any further as far as announcing who won each title, which games won each award, and the different various games that were announced at the Game Awards, I thought I would kind of delve into a little bit of some of the frequently asked questions about the Game Awards, because some of these things I wasn't sure of myself until recently, until I looked it up. The first things first is, how are these nominees even selected in the first place? Well, according to the Game Awards website, they have an international jury of 51 different global media and influencer outlets that chooses the games that represent each category. They make a ballot, and they fill out their top 5 choices for each category, and whichever games are the most popular of those categories ends up being the nominees for each award. If there's a tie, if there's more than 5 that are end up being the most popular by vote wise, they include them in the actual award category itself. And there's a separate jury for the esports division of the Game Awards. So that way, the people who are more familiar with the material cover that, and makes it a more fair selection. And then the other thing that I always end up asking myself is, how are the winners selected each year? And according to the Game Awards website, the winners are based on 90% by the jury and 10% by popular vote. And then there are some categories that are chosen exclusively by popular vote. The jury doesn't have any decision on who should win that category. They just help choose who is in the category, and then the rest is left up to the public vote. Those categories that are exclusively public vote are Best Esports Game, Best Esports Player, Best Esports Team, Most Anticipated Game, and the Trending Gamer Award. So now I'll go ahead and just read down the list of the awards and who won each category. I may give a little bit of an anecdote about what I think about the specific games winning each award, and we'll just kind of go from there. First thing I'll go ahead and talk about is which game won Game of the Year. This was a hot division this year because 2017 has been jam-packed with so many great games this year. And the winner of this category was Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which, of the games that were nominated, which were Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Persona 5, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and Horizon Zero Dawn. I haven't played any of these games, but Breath of the Wild was what I was hoping would win this category. The next category was Best Game Direction, which was also won by Breath of the Wild. Best Narrative was won by What Remains of Edith Finch. I've heard about this game quite a bit. It was nominated in a lot of different categories, and it's something that I will try to look into playing in the near future, but I have not gotten to check it out yet. Best Art Direction was Cuphead, which I was so pleased that it won Best Art Direction, because that game is just so gorgeous simply because of the fact that each frame of the game is hand animated. It's just a breathtakingly beautiful game. Best Score / Music was Nier Automata, or Automata, depending on who you ask it how it's pronounced. Most of the time I go Automata, but it kind of depends on the day. Best Audio Design, which is different from Best Score / Music. This is more the actual sound effects and the voice acting At least that's what I understand it to be. Best audio design was won by Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Best performance, which is your best acting performance in a game, was Melina Juergens, who played Senua in Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Fun little fact about her performance in there: she is not a voice actor. This is her first ever voice acting role. She's just a video editor on the team for the game. And so I think it's just really amazing for her to have won this award, considering that she's never voice acted in her life before. Games for Impact is a game that was a thought-provoking game with a profound pro-social meaning. I'm not exactly sure what this means, and it seems like most people aren't exactly sure what this means. I've kind of interpreted it as games that have a more social message, talking about like something that's maybe a harder topic to talk about, and putting it in a way that's respectful towards the community that it's trying to represent. And the winner of this one was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Again, another game that I have been looking forward to. I've been wanting to play, but I haven't had the opportunity to actually play it myself. Best ongoing game, and this would be your game that is most likely games as a service, your game that has a long lifespan over a course of a couple years. In this case, the winner of this was Overwatch, which I'm happy about. Overwatch has been one of my favorite games since it came out. I love the community, and I love the lore and the background the game has built over the last year. Best mobile game was Monument Valley 2. Best handheld game, which would be a game on a handheld system, was Metroid: Samus Returns. Best VR/AR game was Resident Evil 7. Best action game was Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Best action adventure game was Breath of the Wild. Best RPG was Persona 5. It's been interesting to see the love for Persona 5 this year, because I believe that this is the first year that it's just been on PS4 and here in the States. From what I understand, it has been on the PS3 and in Japan for a while. I may be wrong on that. That's what I understand how the game has been, but it's been great to see the love for that game, but it's been kind of interesting to see what the reception of it is in the context of a 2017 Game Awards. Best fighting game is Injustice 2, which is one of my top games that has come out this year. I've loved every single second of that game. I personally am a DC fanboy. I've got a Green Lantern tattoo here on my leg. And it's been really great to see the fan service done for that game, as far as adding new characters that really have no business being in a DC fighting game, but hell, it's been awesome to see Hellboy in that game, to see that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are coming to that game, and some other really great characters that they've added, Black Manta included, and just a good story overall with Injustice. The story mode, most story modes in fighting games are not easily pulled off, just because you have to find a reason to have certain characters fight each other in the context of a story. But Injustice 2 manages to pull it off just really, really well. Best family game was Super Mario Odyssey, which was an interesting choice to me, considering that most of the games that were nominated for family games were not multiplayer games. They just seemed to have a more family-focused content as far as the game goes, but it wasn't more multiplayer, couch co-op, or anything like that. There were very few games that were like that. I think Mario Kart might have been the only one that was nominated that would have been, I guess, would have fit that category that I'm describing. Best strategy game was a surprise to me, because it was Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I think a lot of people just liked that game because it was a big surprise that it was actually any kind of good. Most of the time the Rabbids games kind of end up being pretty meh or so-so games, but I think the added impact of Mario and like Nintendo being trusting of Ubisoft as a developer was a nice change of pace and seemed to be a pretty rewarding experience overall. Best sports/racing game was Forza 7. Best multiplayer game was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Most anticipated game was Last of Us Part 2. Best indie game was Cuphead. Best Student Game, which was any game that was created by somebody who is currently a high school or college student, was a game by the name of Level Squared. Seemed like it was a pretty cool category to be had, and it seemed like it was judged by like an all-star panel of game developers and big names in the industry, including Hideo Kojima and Todd Howard. So it seemed like it was a great new addition to the Game Awards this year. Trending Gamer was Dr. Disrespect, who is a Twitch streamer. Best Esports Game was Overwatch. Best Esports Player was Faker from SK Telecom 1. Best Esports Team was Cloud9. Best Debut Indie Game was Cuphead. And Best Chinese Game was JX3 HD. So those were all the categories for the Game Awards. Let me know if you thought somebody else should have won in any of those categories. I came away pretty happy with how some of these categories turned out. I was surprised that Horizon didn't win more categories. Actually, I don't think Horizon won any of the categories that it was nominated for, which blew me away because it seemed like it was such a fan favorite of most people's. So now let's go ahead and talk about some of the numbers that they started touting about the Game Awards this year in comparison. Jeff Keighley, again, the creator and host of the Game Awards, seemed to be very, very happy with how everything turned out. Their numbers and viewership for the Game Awards this year were kind of staggering almost. Viewership was up 202%, and they had triple their views from 2016. In 2016, they had about 3.8 million views in live streams, and here in 2017 they had over 11.5 million, which is staggering. I don't know what caused the viewership to go up on this. Maybe it was a combination of so many great games that came out this year, and everybody really wanted to see what the overall public view and consensus and feeling on what the games were this year. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that they had a orchestra on stage this year, which was really, really a nice touch, I thought. Their ads, while there were plentiful ads here in the Game Awards, like there is every year. I mean, look, you got to have funding somehow to be able to put on such a big event in the Microsoft Arena. They were pretty well done this year. They weren't too invasive, and they weren't too in your face about their advertisement this year, which I personally enjoyed. There was no Chic Hydro man walking around on stage trying to sell me on razors, which I for one really appreciated. And so the other thing that I think that really caused the viewership to go up with this was people have now kind of seen that the Game Awards are a good place to announce new games. It's no E3 or PAX or Paris Games Week, but you see a lot more things announced and teased at the Game Awards, and so I think that was a good indicator as to why some of the viewership went up. Speaking of the game announcements, I feel like now's the time to kind of go into that. There were a lot of games that were announced at the Game Awards. Some of them were good, some of them looked good, some of them looked bad. I'll kind of just go through a brief list of the things that were announced, the trailers that were shown, and we'll just kind of talk it out from there. The very first thing that was shown off during the pre-show was a World War Z game. This is obviously based off of the intellectual property that was originally a book and then got turned into that movie with Brad Pitt. I, for one, am kind of tired of zombie-based games, and it doesn't look fantastic to me, but there's probably a market out there for somebody who does still enjoy these zombie games. The next thing that was shown off was Vacation Simulator. This is from Alchemy Labs. This is a follow-up to their VR game, Job Simulator, which was immensely popular on their system. They were said in their interview, this has just seemed like a natural progression for them. What do you do after you work for a while? You take a vacation. So that was the natural progression of things. There was a tease for a new game from Software. From Software is the company that is in charge of games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. It's like a 5-second teaser. Nobody's really exactly sure what this new game is going to be. Some people have speculated that it's Bloodborne 2. Some people have been able to kind of make out some Japanese character markings behind this. Nobody's really quite sure what it is that they're seeing in it. It kind of looks almost like a crude, like winch kind of thing, pulley system that's made out of like bone and bloody rope, and there's some Japanese character markings behind it, and that's it. It's like 5 seconds. Some people think it's Bloodborne 2, but most people are really not quite sure what exactly it is. Campo Santo, the studio behind Firewatch, announced their new game in the Valley of Gods. Seems like it's a new first-person perspective game set in the 1920s in ancient Egypt. It's a nice, lengthy trailer, and it kind of goes through like the exploration of like a tomb or like a pyramid in ancient Egypt. In Egypt. Seems like an interesting game. Campo Santo is a great studio, and Firewatch was a good game, so I'm looking forward to that. They put out a trailer for the Champions Ballad DLC for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was then released that night. Breath of the Wild, what seems like an amazing game that I just have not had the opportunity to play because I do not own a Nintendo Switch at this point. So, I'll have to let me know in the comments below what you think about the Champions Ballad DLC. There was an announcement for Soul Calibur 6, which of course is the fighting franchise that's been around for forever at this point. I'm pretty much a kind of a noob when it comes to fighter games. Mostly the fighting games that I end up playing are Mortal Kombat and Injustice, and every now and then a Street Fighter game. But I've never been a huge fan of Soul Calibur, but maybe this will be the one that will make me pick up on the franchise. Reggie Fils-Aimé from Nintendo America came on stage and announced that Bayonetta's 1 and 2 were going to be coming out for Switch on February 16th of 2018, which is some great news because Bayonetta 2, of course, was a Wii U exclusive, and not a lot of people owned a Wii U, so this will be a good opportunity for people to play a game that is widely acclaimed as a very, very good game on a system that people actually own. And then, of course, they also announced that, in addition to that, Bayonetta 3 is now in development and it will be exclusively on the Nintendo Switch. So it's kind of awesome to see that Bayonetta is now pretty much a Nintendo franchise, and it seems like it'll stay that way. They showed off a new Death Stranding trailer, which Death Stranding has become a new obsession of mine. I love Hideo Kojima's work. I think he's a crazy man who kind of makes up things as he goes along, and Death Stranding doesn't seem to be an exception to that. I'll be doing a video sometime here in the near future reacting to all 3 of the Death Stranding trailers that are out at this point, sometime here in the near future. Another game that was announced here at the Game Awards was a game called Witchfire, which has a nice, really cool goth aesthetic to it. The trailer opens up and it says that it's from the creators of The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, but also the people who brought you Bulletstorm and Painkiller. So seems like a visually appealing game that will have some pretty cool gunplay mechanics to it. So I'm looking forward to seeing more out of that. We also got a new trailer for the game A Way Out from EA, and I kind of have some mixed feelings about this game. It's a very interesting concept. I don't know if it'll be necessarily for me. I I have some mixed feelings about the game director, Josef Fares. If you watch the Game Awards, or you may have even heard about it on Twitter or any other like news outlet that follows like gaming, Josef Fares, the game director of A Way Out, kind of went on this weird rant at the Game Awards about basically saying, fuck the Oscars, fuck this, fuck that, like, basically saying that, like, games as a whole are a more interactive medium and a better medium than movies are, or at least that's what I got from it. Then again, it kind of felt like I really didn't understand what he was saying fuck the Oscars about. He didn't really kind of give any clear reason why the Game Awards are better than the Oscars. At first I felt like it was like really funny, and part of me still thinks it is, but I feel like it puts the gaming community back a little bit, because at the end of the day, I feel like gaming and the gaming industry is kind of looking for legitimacy as an artistic medium, and you can't have it's hard to have the argument of, once you try to have the argument of gaming is a legitimate art form, you've already lost the argument as far as gaming is a legitimate art form, because if it's seen as something that's legitimate, then you don't have to have the argument that it is legitimate. Once you start having that argument, you've lost it. And so it's hard, because it feels like that whole rant, and he says he's jet lagged when he's having the conversation, but in my opinion, I think he's probably drunk, and he kind of goes into this long rant, and it feels very incoherent, and you don't really understand what exactly he is going on this tirade about. It kind of feels like it pushes everything back, and I feel bad for Jeff Keighley, because he looks like he's trying to rein the guy in, about trying to get legitimate information out of him about, like, when's the game coming out? What are we going to see in this trailer that we're about to see for the game? And the guy just keeps on talking about how passionate he is about his project, and fuck the Oscars and fucking hell and all this and all that. It just doesn't feel like he's doing anything positive for the messaging of his game. That's just my personal opinion, though. Let me know in the comments, or about what exactly you think about his outrage about this. We also got a look at the new desert map from PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Looks fantastic. So a lot of people who play Battlegrounds seem very interested in this desert map. I haven't played, but I've been watching lots of different gameplay of Austin Walker and Patrick Klepek from Waypoint playing it, and it seems really interesting. We got to look at a new VR game coming from the creators of the Stanley Parable and from Squanch Games, which I believe is Justin Roiland and the creators of Rick and Morty. A new game called Counting Plus. That looks just as random and as crazy as hectic as a Rick and Morty episode or something from the Stanley Parable, so looks interesting. Fade into Silence is a survival game coming out from THQ Nordic. I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of survival games as it is, but this one really didn't do anything for me watching the trailer. It looked the same as any other generic survival game in the snow, and honestly, the graphics for the game didn't look very good, especially considering that they come from a bigger name studio like THQ Nordic. So I'll be on the lookout for that and kind of see if maybe they can put something out that kind of changes my mind on it. We had a new game announced from the creators of Payday and Payday 2. It's a game called GTFO, which I think is an awful name for a game, and it kind of put me off from which seems like an interesting premise. Honestly, it looks like it's a 4-player cooperative experience where you go in and it looks like you're doing different jobs, and it seems like some sort of like space zombie outbreak It's a really cool. Seems like a really cool premise for a game that I'd be interested in. But honestly, the name GTFO kind of puts me off of it entirely. It's a bad name. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Maybe I'm not good at coming up with names on my own, but a game like GTFO just really doesn't sell me on what that game really is. Especially from maybe you have the people that are behind Payday and Payday 2, which that's a good name for that franchise. GTFO just doesn't tell me anything about what I would need to know about this space zombie heist type game. And really that's about it for as far as the Game Awards go. Overall, I thought it was really, really well done. I think this has been the best year that they've had yet as far as the awards go and game announcements. I think it's a really great award show that each year is getting better and better, and I can't wait to see what they pull out next year with the awards. With that being said, I'm Kyle Fares from Your Daily Nerd, and continue to look out for our new content that we've got coming out soon. We'll be doing a Game of the Year video sometime between the week of Christmas and New Year's. Got a new video series coming out here in 2018, and we'll be looking at doing a podcast here in 2018 as well. A bunch of great new content, and you're only going to be able to find it here on Your Daily Nerd, so you should hit that subscribe button so that way you can know when we have our new content and have our new videos coming out. Thank you again for watching this video and for checking out my channel and my other videos that I've done here in the past. I really appreciate all the support that you give me for this passion project that I'm working on. With that being said, what do you nerd out about?